Welcome back to Wild Contemplations with Kristin and Cori. I am Kristin. I am a 1-3 emotional projector in human design, Sag Sun, Libra Moon, Pisces Rising. Cori and I are on this adventure of contemplating the wheel. We're taking a journey around the wheel and contemplating the gene keys that are in illuminated by the sun and grounded by the earth. And so the sun and its programming partner and also reflecting on human design and astrology aspects along the way. So, welcome, welcome. We're so glad you're here. And Cori, I'll hand it to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here with us. I'm Cori. I'm a 4-6 sacral manifesting generator and a Cancer Sun, Virgo Moon, and Virgo Rising. And yeah, this is a really beautiful adventure that we are embarking on together. And it's been a lot of fun to lean into this journey of just seeing what comes through along the way and kind of showing up as our full selves as we are in the moment. Um, it's been a lot of fun, and we're happy to have you along for this ride. Last week, we were contemplating the sun in 24 and the earth in 44. So we'll probably do a little check in. If you've been with us, we do a few breaths at the beginning. We check in with last week and just see how we're feeling. And then we'll move into the sun in the second gene key and the earth in the first today. So if it feels good to soften your gaze or close your eyes, maybe bring a hand to the belly or the heart and just take 3 breaths together to land into this space.
Mm.
So we were contemplating last week the sun in 24 with its frequency bands of addiction, invention, and silence, and the earth in 44 with the frequency bands of interference, teamwork, and synarchy. Um, we actually will have the full moon tomorrow in this 44th gene key, which is also your Venus, Kristin. So yeah, I thought we would just kind of check in here, see what's up, whether it's around these energies or not. They're always woven together in some way.
Mhm. Yeah, I generally this week I feel a lightness. I feel like something has released. Um, I think last time we checked in, I was feeling heaviness, or I can't remember if we talked about that roller coaster energy last week, but just coming into this week, I do feel a lot lighter. I feel like some clarity has come through, that there's like through the shedding, through the releasing, through the feeling of all the things, that I feel more clear. I feel excited, um, and inspired to move forward. So I'm excited to be here. Um, Having ridden that wave. I was just thinking before we started recording that it must feel like quite a roller coaster, like actually checking in week to week and how we're feeling, just the true roller coaster of it all, is actually kind of cool to look at from the perspective of what a journey it is. And it's not a place that we're isolated to. that we really get to just continue to move through these waves and experience all life has to offer.
It's one of my favorite parts of like adventuring around the wheel like this because it really does. So the I Ching translates to like book of changes. And that's the inspiration for the 64 gates and the 64 gene keys is those hexagrams. And so I think it's just this cool reminder that life is always changing, and that we don't have to, not even that we don't have to, but that we never are like in the same way of being, even from day to day. And that's just offered me a lot of solace and support on this journey because there can be times where it's like, what is going on here?
Mhm.
But it just invites it all in. It invites, yeah, the fullness again, like I was saying at the beginning, that's what I keep noticing is like there have been times on my path where I think that I've wanted it to look a certain way or wanted to have certain experiences and kind of like skip over the other stuff. And I think what the 24 to me, the wisdom that it's really been kind of expressing and just moving through my field is like it's in all of it. Like it's in the highs, it's in the lows, it's in the day to day, it's in when it seems like nothing's happening, it's when everything seems to be happening. It's like it's again not about any one moment or one way or one like arrival or something. It's about all of those and the adventure along the way.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm feeling excited as well. I'm feeling very grateful. And I'm just feeling more trusting. It's like this deeper trust has settled within me. And I think moving through those really kind of wavy, roller coastery moments has played a big part in deepening that trust because it's like,
Mhm.
okay, we got this. And it's all how it's meant to be. It's all unfolding in its timing, and I can trust in this more. I think that's where I'm at right now.
Mm. I love that so much. Just reflecting on the different levels of trust that we can have through our journey. I remember the first time that I went to see a therapist and I thought she was a total flake and thought, how is this woman going to be able to help me? But I was in a space of experiencing such extreme anxiety that I knew I needed to be there. And so I just showed up the next week. And that was the level of trust that I had. It wasn't that I thought this woman's going to change my life. I'm going to be healed after this. I'm going to release things. It wasn't any of that. It was just I know that I'm not where I want to be, and so I'm going to show up in a space that I know holds space for change. And so I love that moving through those waves, moving through those experiences, allowing all of it to happen even if you're like, what the fuck along the way, it's still, as you said, deepening your trust because we always come out on the other side. And it's through that that we can then feel, oh, okay, like you said, I got this. I'm going to move through to the other side. I'm not stuck here. Um, this is a part of the journey. And then eventually, right, we move to this space of seeing that when it comes. Oh, here's this big wave. This is a part of the journey. Like we get it ahead of time. Yeah.
Yeah, I just have the biggest smile on my face right now. And I'm feeling so much of the energy that we're going to be contemplating today. So I feel like it's like the perfect entry point into the sun in the second gene key with its frequency bands of dislocation, orientation, and unity. In human design, this is sometimes called the gate of higher knowing or the gate of the direction of self. And it lives in the G or identity center and reaches towards the sacral. And in the I Ching, it translates to the receptive. And so it really is all about really trusting in life's unfolding and in the mystery of it all. It's obviously with those frequency bands, we can kind of hear into it. It's like we're always in the right place. Well, it's only like our thinking or our mistranslation of energy or like hearing off that kind of gives us the sense that we might be lost or that we could have made a mistake or something. I just love listening to Richard's um, contemplation of this one for the 64 ways. Um, Actually, if you're listening, when the sun is in this gene key, you can listen to his. It's this like, it just gives you this sense like that, yeah, nothing is wrong. Um, And to me, this is where my North Node is. So it just feels like this warmth and this like just big hug of like life and earth itself surrounds me and it's like, oh, okay. Like I don't have to be so worried that I'm off track or I'm off course or I'm doing something wrong or I should be doing something else. It's like really this knowing that like we are exactly where we're meant to be doing exactly what we're meant to be doing and that yeah it's all a part of the dance or the journey. And then we have the earth in the one, its programming partner with its frequency bands of entropy, freshness and beauty. And just because entropy is a little bit of a different word, I will say that he speaks of it as being like a loss of energy in a system, and that we typically feel this as like a numbness or like a sort of exhaustion or tiredness, like that basically the energy that we're putting out is kind of just being lost essentially. Um, and yeah, in human design, this is the gate of self-expression. It also lives in the G or identity center. So we can see that these also, both of them have this sense of like direction. They're directing us and guiding us on this journey. Um, I don't know if I said this, but it reaches towards the throat. And in the I Ching, it translates to the creative. So these are actually like two of the four pillars of the I Ching, the gene keys, the human design gates, along with the 63 and the 64, so which you have, Kristin, and in your prime gifts. But they kind of make like the bookends or the pillars of the entirety of these archetypes and energy, and they speak to the yin and the yang energies. So yeah, I'll stop there and we'll kind of see what emerges.
Mm. So I don't think you mentioned it here, but Cori had told me that the two is my Chiron. And, as you were sharing about these, I was reflecting on how much in my journey I've always wanted to be somewhere else. I want to be there. I don't want to be here. I want to be there. When am I going to get there? And when I hired my first coach, every time I was about to ask a question, it was because it was always around those things, right? Like I've already been working through this. Like when am I going to move all the way through this and get on the other side of it? When am I going to get there? And she used to say to me, progress is not your business. And, I think that I'm better. I'm better about this now, and holding space for the actual journey. Like something that I reflect to my clients a lot is, that it's the journey is like approaching a fork in the road. I used to describe therapy like this, and I think the journey in general, even like when I teach intuition, like choosing intuition over ego, like these are all like the forks in the road that we're presented with in our journey, right? And so what happens is for so long, like we've been approaching this fork and going left. We know that path, it's ingrained, it's like we could do it with our eyes closed. It's comfortable, all the things. And so the journey becomes choosing the other path, the right path, not no pun intended there, but the right path where, the weeds are overgrown and the path isn't as clear and we're not sure what's going to happen on the end of it. There's a lot of uncertainty there. Right. And so the more we choose that right path, the deeper it ingrains, right? The more it becomes comfortable. And so what I say to my clients is like, until you've picked that path 51% of the time, like up till then, it's going to feel like, I'm not like the left one's still more comfortable. Like I still have that choice to choose what I've chosen all my life. But the more you choose it, the more you ingrain it, the more it gets comfortable. When you hit that 51%, it's like you're just tipping over the mountain. And now you can start to like feel the relief, the you can look back on it and say, wow, I really have shifted here. I really have changed. My behavior is different now. Like my frequency feels different. I feel less scared of the uncertain. And that's the journey every time. And it doesn't mean that we take it once, but so I was reflecting on, how good am I at this now? How good am I about holding space for feeling like I'm not where I want to be. And I definitely still have some things that I do feel that way on, and I kick and scream a little bit about. And so it's interesting to hear that it's in my Chiron, and I would be open to reflections there. Um, and then the other piece I will mention before I stop here, the one, what I was feeling with this, even with its frequency bands of entropy, freshness, and beauty, I feel like, what this was bringing forward for me was this invitation right now that we have with these two paths that are in front of us of choosing AI or our own voice. That's what was coming through for me. So that's a little rabbit hole that we can go down if you like. So I'll just plant that seed here. Or if we don't end up going back to that, if Cori and I don't, and anybody has any reflections on that, because I know it's very present for the world right now, I'd love to hear those in the comments as you're listening, because I think that the world is craving freshness in a sea of sameness. And so, how are you? I'll leave you with this contemplation. How are you contributing to that? Are you lost in the sea? Do you look the same? What's that one like graphic of like all the whitefish like swimming one way, and then there's this one like blackfish swimming the opposite direction or whatever, or redfish or whatever fucking colors they are. There's no insinuation there, but like it's there's this wrongness in the one that's swimming in the opposite direction, right? But is it, or is it fresh? Is that the one that I actually notice because it's swimming in a different direction?
There's so much to explore with these two. So yeah, I'm just gonna dive in and we'll see where it takes us. Um, yeah. So I have my nodes here. My north node is in the two, my south node is in the one. And I actually have both of these channels as well. And you're really speaking to the energy of like this full channel too, with this idea because the one connects with the eight, which lives in the throat. And it's very much about really walking your unique, authentic path. Really, again, like you said, kind of going your own way, going against what everyone else is doing. Not that it has to be this like rebellion, like, oh, I'm going to go this way because everybody is doing this, but it's like whatever way you're led to going, maybe that is going the same way as everybody else, but it's like it's what's true to you. And I think that's the difference. Because if everybody else is going in this way that's like just following the crowd or the conditioning or just, kind of fitting in, laying low, this these energies in this channel is like, oh no, I'm gonna like live and I'm going to live my full expression and I'm going to do the things that I feel called to do and move in the way that I feel called to move. Again, I certainly with these keys, I feel this like pull, we'll be pulled towards something. And the one, there's this real invitation with that freshness that you're talking about, that to not be afraid of making mistakes, to like really just put yourself out there and like yeah, I think Richard even talks about this in one of the contemplations. It's like the fool, the fool archetype, like just kind of being ready to like go your own way. Like you were saying, go down that path that looks like maybe no one's ever been down it before. You have no idea what's like kind of lurking there, but you're ready and you know that there's something within you that's calling you down that path. And so you just follow it one step at a time. And yeah, I think what the two shows us is like that we can trust each of those steps, even if you take a few steps and you're like, whoa, there's something in the path. Like, how do I get around this? All the little things that come up along the way. Um, it's like the two is kind of like holding. And yeah, what I would say with like, yeah, the AI sort of art, self-expression aspect of things to me, like, and I actually just heard a teacher of mine sharing about this too. Um, but like, you can never replace the human authentic expression. And I think that will become something that we crave more and more the more that AI is used in these ways of like just shooting out a template or whatever, it's going to be like this is the time that we're moving into right now with that bigger shift, the mutation in the solar plexus, the shift into the cross of this sleeping phoenix, like all of this is inviting us to step into our unique individual expression and to really like yeah, live our life as art, like be the creator of our life and to really just lean all into the path. So yeah, that's what I feel about that aspect of things. And then yeah, another thing that comes up with these, it's so interesting. Richard talks about this in both the one and the two and the 63 and the 64, like the way that they're arranged. That there might have been, it's part of our evolution, but that the two actually might have come first and probably most likely did come first. And then the one came. And you can see the same at the 63 and 64. 63 in the I Ching is like after completion, and 64 is before completion. So you can see that their energies in a way have been swapped. And I think the message that it's showing us is that the feminine energy or the yin energy is actually always coming first. And then like so it's leaning into that like voidal energy, that mystery. And then the yang energy or the masculine energy is there to kind of like uh yeah, guide and contain and offer support to that energy. And it shines through in a lot of what you share in your work around this idea of like intuition and logic, right? Because that's the 63 and the 64. They speak a bit more to like the brain activity of it all. And I would say that the one and two are more like the, day to day, like where we're being pulled in life, sort of, yeah, like direction and love, and just like bigger picture maybe of it all is like, yeah, uh, really trusting in ourselves deeply. And two, about our belonging and like this feeling of home. So, what I would just touch on a little bit with your Chiron is, I think you've shared before that one of the wounds that you have is around like belonging and feeling, again, this to me connects with like feeling like you're in the right place at the right time, that you're held, that you're supported, that you're not doing this all on your own, that you're not left out, that you're not cast out, that you're not in the wrong, yeah, place. And I'm sure over the coming years, because, Chiron is getting ready to move into Taurus, that a lot more will surface around this. But obviously, it's certainly something that you are here to share with other people, like what you have learned from those experiences. And you touched on that and what you share with your coaching clients, and just like, I think it will become more of just a felt experience in your presence, the more you move through life. But you can certainly already feel it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's also amazing just how much beauty I find and where exactly where others are in their journey. It's so easy for me to see the beauty in someone else and not be able to see it in me all the time, right? Like I said, I've certainly gotten better at finding this acceptance because I think that, back to what we resist persists. So I know that when I find acceptance of where I am, that's when I actually find movement. Um, and it took a long time for me to get to that space of even finding acceptance. But like I said, there's still moments that I don't see it. But anyways, it's really remarkable how much I see. I'm in awe every time I listen to someone where they're at, even if they're extremely emotional, if they've gone through some really hard things and they're navigating those hard things in the moment or whatever. Like I find so much beauty in it. And as I'm saying this, it makes me just, especially being a projector, like I want to be around more of that. That's what I crave being around because being around other people and seeing them in their raw journey, it is really it helps me see mine in me.
Absolutely.
And that to me is beautiful. Like I love those moments when I remember I was doing a podcast interview with a friend of mine who is just she's really intense. And I remember just stopping and laughing at one point in the podcast. And I said, I love your intensity. And I'm intense. And this is something that I think that in the past, I was worried about being too intense for people, and I wanted to kind of pull that back, or I was tempered in the expression of that. And I remember in that moment just how much freedom I felt in seeing that in her. And then I was like, wow, that's really beautiful. Like, I love that in you. And I love that in me too. Okay, there's that piece. So the other piece, do you want me to stop or you want me to keep going?
Keep going.
Okay. So the other piece that came up when you were talking about like the 63, 64, and the 1 and 2 being swapped in the masculine, feminine, I wanted to share that when I was traveling through Texas, I was sitting in this women's circle and we were being led through masculine, feminine work. And she guided us through this meditation to meet our masculine and feminine. And then we did these like vision boards with it. I'll never forget that experience because what it showed me. So when I saw the feminine, I had a vision of a snake. And what it meant to me was this like freedom of change and death and rebirth and just like not having structure, right? Like the snake is so fluid. So, yeah, that's what that represented to me. And then when I saw the masculine, I saw stairs. And ultimately, what came through for me was because at the time when I did this, I had this resistance around the masculine, like keeping me too tight in a container and feeling restricted by the masculine. But what this meditation showed me is that the masculine is willing to build whatever I want. It's willing to build the stairs, the way there, when the feminine just claims it and says, this is what I want. This is the change that I desire. This is what I'm seeing. And the masculine says, okay, here's the stairs. Like, here's the way. Like, I can build that container. And without that, where does the vision go? Nowhere. If you haven't been in that space, I've been in that space. I've gone, masculine Kristin has gone all feminine Kristin and gotten nowhere in business. So that was really beautiful for me to see that, to see these two parts within us, right? So if you're not familiar with masculine feminine work, we carry both aspects within us, right? And then in relationship, there's this polarity in partners, or ideally there's a polarity within the partners where like one partner is more masculine and one partner is more feminine. And that's interchangeable, right? But you flow between those two very naturally, right? And the masculine tends to be more in the lead, and the feminine is more of the creative, emotional energy. And so we can have wounded expressions of them as well. And that's where I was with the masculine. I felt like I don't want to be restricted. I don't want to be structured. And I'm a left quad in human design too, which is all the variables at the top around the head in your chart. All of mine point to the left, which generally I would say leads to more like masculine type structured energy. They all mean different things, but just as a general statement, I would say like that's more masculine. So structure works for me. And I resisted that for a long time. Um, so yeah, that was I love that you said that the feminine comes first, to come back to all of what you said and my reflection of that. Like the feminine comes first and the masculine like builds the structure behind it.
I was, yeah, reflecting on this a bit earlier. Um, and I've been reflecting it on, over the last several years in my creative process and just my life process in general. But like everything, like creative projects and things like that, creativity, it starts from the void, like from the nothingness, from the mystery, again, from the feminine, from the yin energy, from the womb, whatever we want to call it. And it I think that at least I was conditioned to kind of like avoid the void. But I've actually found that it's essential to the creative process because otherwise, like, it's more of a regurgitation or a creating from what you already know. You know what I mean? Like, it hasn't gone to that place where like everything is pretty much obliterated. And then we're starting, with what emerges from there. And I think this kind of actually loops back to the sort of AI, authentic expression discussion as well. Um, so that was something that kind of came forth as you were sharing. And then the the two, when you were talking about how you recognized like in your friend, the intensity and how you love that about them and then how you can see that in yourself and love that about yourself. The two, it is really part of yeah, like recognizing the gifts in others and in ourselves. It's part of the channel, the 214, and it really speaks to when we do all come together in our own unique ways with like bringing those parts of ourselves that we might be like, I don't know, should I show up with this? Are people gonna accept it? Like, because the two does create this space where it's like, bring all of yourself because I love it. And the more that we bring all of ourselves, there's like this bounteousness that's like the acidic frequency, the full frequency of the 14 that the two connects with. It's like there is such abundance and prosperity in us all coming together with our fullness in our own unique ways, because everybody's bringing something unique to the table. And it's kind of coming together in this bigger picture that is there to offer support to more than just, you know, an individual. It's like starting to spread that prosperity out into groups and larger, yeah, communities. And I wanted to speak to that because I felt it in what you were sharing about your experience with recognizing the beauty of intensity. And then I also want to speak about how these two, our minds want to separate them. Just, I love this work of like looking at the archetypes in these like 64 different ways. But they're not, none of these are separate. And the yin and the yang, like that's not separate either. They actually are always intertwined. It's just when our mind is trying to process them that it wants to kind of like separate. And I'll leave on this note. I'm also quad left, which is really funny to me. It's always been the like one of the things in my chart that I'm just like, I don't know. But I think what it is that this has been helpful for me to understand is that when we have those left facing variables, it's just that in situations like in whatever part of life we're in that it's focusing on or touching on, it's like we are kind of stimulated by that. So there's like those of us that are sort of stimulated by the environment and those that are more passive. And like you were saying, it is kind of touching on the creative receptive ends of things. But yeah, to me, it's less about like with these two, there really is like a lot of fluidity. So it doesn't have to be this way that we've thought of structuring before. Um, but yeah, and I wonder too, I've always thought of this as like actually maybe quad lefts and quad rights feel more alike than some of the other like changes in variables, like, someone who's, two rights and two lefts or something. Yeah, I think that might be the case as well.
Interesting. Cori, do you have resistance to structure?
Yeah. Well, my evolution is in the 60th gene key, which I think, it's just not something that's super comfortable to me. But again, like I think what I'm here, part of my path here is like understanding that what that looks like for the world around me isn't the same as what it looks like for me. And that kind of goes back to the fish swimming the other way. Like I've found that actually like very loose structure is
Yeah.
helpful for me. But if it gets too rigid, I just start to feel like I'm suffocating. So
Mhm.
I've actually found where my sweet spot is in some respects. Obviously, like we were saying, this is a constant journey. Um, and the things like Chiron or, my natal earth, those are always going to be like points where it's again not so comfortable for us, but we just, we keep walking through it and we keep moving with it and learning more about it. And that's why it becomes some of our greatest gifts that we're offering to the world because we understand it so deeply.
Hmm. Yeah, I always say, because structure, it's so interesting, and I would be curious for people listening, what does that word bring up for you? Because it is one of those words that's, it can rub people the wrong way for sure, especially when it feels like too contained or too restricting. And I always say to people that structure is relative to you. Right? Even the right quads that I've worked with are like, I love structure. Like they're just, you know, so it's not black and white. And I love too that you brought up that the masculine and feminine really they're not separate. Um, and I know, especially like if you've been listening to this podcast or if you continue listening, like I don't know if it's my defined head or my defined heart, but I can be very like compartmental with things as I explain them. But I agree with you and would say that, um, even when like feminine Kristin rejected corporate masculine Kristin, the masculine that was there in that container was wounded. So it was still there. It just wasn't a healthy expression of masculine. So I'll explain it that way or said another way too. Um, there was something else that came up for me when you were talking, and now I'm gonna forget it. Hmm, I lost it. So if it comes back, I'll bring it up again.
Yeah, for sure. It will probably find its way back to us. So yeah, feel free to interrupt me. Um, we talked about this a little bit last week. So this has been part of my contemplation, um, as we've moved into Taurus season. It's interesting because like in my natal chart, so like the personality or conscious side of the human design chart, I just have my North node in Taurus, and then I also have like my Black Moon Lilith, but obviously that's not activated in the chart, in the human design body graph, I mean. So, this is energy that I'm not necessarily super comfortable with in this lifetime. Again, you know, the sort of speaking again to like certain forms of structure and like this sort of fixed earth energy. Uh, but I actually recognize that in my design chart and in my unconscious or body side of my chart, I actually have quite a bit of Taurus energy. And so it's been really neat for me over the last several days to really recognize like that my body actually is asking for different things than my mind is necessarily like thinking I need for myself. And I think this speaks to these two keys, because I kind of see the personality side as more like one, like, and the design side is more two, like. And I realized that, like, actually, because I have that North Node there, like, this journey that I've been on with astrology, human design, and the gene keys has been leading me back to my body, and back to like listening to what my body's needs. And like you were saying, that my body actually needs a bit more structure than like I consciously maybe think that I do. A more stability, more, but the conscious side of me is like, we don't need any of that. And so it's like kind of finding this dance between the two again, because they are interconnected, they are not separate. but like really sort of listening to both and like kind of finding this common ground between them. I think that's what's like been really alive for me these last couple of days. And I just sense that it's going to go deeper with my contemplation this week of these keys.
Mm. Do you want to know what I see?
Go ahead.
I think that the wheel is your structure.
Yeah.
And to me, that feels so isolating in a way. I don't know if isolating is the right word, but it's like it's too much for me to keep up with the transits. But for you, that's the container that you like. Like that's the structure. It's so interesting. Like for me, I think about things like if I don't plan the food I'm gonna eat for the week, then I'm rogue in the pantry. Like I'm just grabbing whatever is there, and then I don't necessarily feel good in my body. And so like I need to plan things like that. Like that's one of the structures I would say. The other structure for me is are my rituals. Getting up and doing like my energy work, my grounding, and then at nighttime, same thing. um if I don't have that in the morning, then my day just it feels rogue. It feels like I don't it feels like energy leaking to me, right? So it's really such a beautiful example of structure and how that gets to be, right? But for sure, that is, I think, your structure.
No, you're absolutely spot on. I recognize that more this year than any other, probably because I'm like doing it with you and like, I've opened it up in groups and stuff like that. And yeah, I've been like, oh, this is totally, and I've always seen too that like that's why I feel drawn to systems like, astrology, human design, and the gene keys. That also offers me the structuring, the language, to put words to some of these more like energetic, frequency-based information that I'm receiving. So, yeah, it is super interesting to, again, like feel into how we are all are doing it. Again, these words, we carry certain conditioning around them and feel like, you know, but it's there. The containment and the structure is there. Like it's just that it's going to look unique for each of us. And are we listening to what that looks like? Because for a long time I felt like there was something wrong with me because I didn't wake up in the morning and have my morning routine and, make plans for my week and stuff like that. But in playing with that and experimenting with that, I can see, that if I'm doing something because I feel like I should or I have to, then it's probably not aligned for me. And, understanding my energy more deeply through the structure of these systems has helped me to see that I have a very changeable, mutable, adaptable energy that thrives on change. And so, like, where I, lean into my calls to travel or to change something up, but like, where can I also, um, show up for myself each day and like I've I've kind of through um the last couple of years and some of the uh, groups and that I've been a part of and some of my mentors like really started to see it as like a devotion. And like, how can I devote time to myself each day? It doesn't have to look the same because, you know, I've experienced it with many different practices that have started out being very, nourishing for me and helpful for me. But once I start getting to the point where either I'm going through it just to go through it, like I'm doing it because I feel like I have to, or because that's what I've been doing, and it just kind of loses its, yeah, devotion and magic. Or um, I start to feel like, oh, if I miss a day, then, what's going to happen? If I start to have those feelings, then it's like I do have to kind of come back to self and be like, what is being asked of me? And lately, I've leaned into just devoting time for myself in the morning and in the evening to have to really sit with my own energy and to clear my field and ground and receive. But knowing that I can switch that up, like it doesn't have to look the same, has been really helpful on my path for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. Something that I've noticed around me for structure too is that if I have a structured day planned, then I don't like for that to be messed with. And then I can also have spontaneous days planned, and I'm good with whatever happens on those days. But they are like I go into it without a plan, if you will, right? It's funny because this just this week on Monday, so Mondays I have this like, I've experimented a lot with like the structure of my week. And I remember when I was first, sort of landing on a structure, I have a friend who, likes whatever it is when you have like the multiple like follow-up Fridays or um I don't even know like another one that she would do, but follow-up Fridays, like where it's like FFF, like the multiple letters, whatever. So she was like trying to get me to be in that structure, and I was like, no, that doesn't work for me. So she then got me to do this 3 hour thing. She said, what if you did these 3 hours? What if you did um a power, love, and honor were the three. So honor hour was like honoring myself, just whatever I needed for myself, my energy. The love was like for my environment, so attending to my environment, and then power was like work. So she said, "What if you did these 3 hours and then you could just go play and do whatever you want?" And I was like, "Yes, this is the vibe. I want to do this. Like I'm a projector. I want to go play." So I played with that for a little while, and then now I've landed on this, where Sundays are my organize, go through like my email box, write my list for the week, like just organize myself. Mondays are my get shit done day. So I really focus on what's going to make money in my business because I have found that I can very much get into the like, I need to check things off the list. But at the end of the day, if we're just checking things off the list and that's not like strategically moving the business forward, then is there a point to that over and over again? So I have it this like make things that are going to make money in my business, focusing on those on Monday. And then Fridays, I've added in this goddess day where I just take care of me. Um, it shows me having these days, it shows me how quick my attention will want to wander. Even when I did the 3 hour thing and I just had like an hour to focus on my environment, and then I would get like distracted and want to like answer my phone or do, whatever. So it really has brought my attention to like how good I am at getting things done when I'm super focused on them. Um, so anyways, I share all that. Clearly somebody needed to hear my structured week to try in their life. But what happened this week is so Monday, we had this beautiful day. It was like 75 degrees, sunny. Monday's my get shit done day, isn't it? And my partner was off and she was like, "What?" Um, and then Tuesday, she was like, "What do you have planned?" And I said, Nothing. I get to spend the day with you because I coordinated my work schedule around that so I could have this day with you. And she said, why didn't we switch the days? Because it's like rainy and not so nice out today, not as warm. Why didn't we go like hiking or something on Monday? Because I have it's my structure, right? You don't fuck with that structure. Like that's how I am with structure. Like that's how it is for me. But and I told her, she's a manifester. I told her, go, just like bring that up to me and I could switch the day. I could just plan on switching the day, right? Although knowing me, it could very well like kind of feel like a rug was ripped out from under me. And now I'm like kind of, where are my groundings for the week? Like it could have messed with me. Kind of like when I used to work in corporate and you have like Monday off. And then like the whole week is fucked after that because you're like Tuesday is Monday and Wednesday is Tuesday. And it's kind of like that. So it's interesting. I guess this is a really boring conversation to talk about structure. Um, but I'll shift gears really quickly here for a second because I do want to reflect on this. And maybe this is what I was going to say earlier, but when we're talking about seeing the beauty in others, I wanted to bring up the shadow side of that too, because we do see, the shadows that we see a lot of times are often, or that we're projecting, because a lot of times those shadows come out in projections too. It's really an invitation, right, to look back and see ourselves and that there's beauty in that reflection too. Um, and then another thing I wanted to say just with projections too, I remember hearing like early in my journey, one of my mentors had said that, it's often what we're yelling at someone else is what we need within us. So if you're in that part of your journey, right? If you're screaming at your partner, you're not listening to me, you're not listening to me, you're not listening to me. It's often a reflection back to you. There's something you're not listening to within you. And I love also, Cori, that you spoke to, just doing these rituals or perpetuating rituals that have fallen into this state of entropy or numbness. Like they've fallen into this state. And, I think that this is something I'm going to sit with a little bit as well, because there are times that I do something because it's like it is my ritual, it is my routine. And there's part of me that feels like there's value in that consistency. So just because like maybe I'm a little bit more detached and I don't feel as connected to my ritual, then is there value in me just like continuing and having that intention of like resetting my energy, grounding my energy? And yes, I think there is. And there is also, you know, something that's coming to my attention that is telling me that I am detached and I'm not as tuned into this ritual, or I'm not as tuned into my body right now. And that is worth coming back to and looking at. So I think that it's important, right? That, I think when we're on this journey, I always say when you start, like, question everything that you do. Am I doing this just because I think I should be doing it? Because I think I have to be doing it because I've been doing it for the last X number of years? Like the energy work that I do every day, I've been doing since 2019. But also I've seen how much my energy has shifted in that time, and I attribute it a lot to my consistent rituals. So it's a very interesting contemplation. Um, where do we lean into those rituals for consistency, even when our energy might be a little bit more erratic versus when are we being asked to evolve and shift, what we're doing, or what is maybe more resonant to us now. Um, so yeah, it's an interesting contemplation.
Yeah, when you were sharing about some of the things, I was seeing 24, which we contemplated last week, and again, is going to be part of this, where the sun will be for this full moon that we have tomorrow. And yeah, because we talked about that being at the shadow frequency, that addiction being like, something we engage in to avoid discomfort. And then I see the one here, with this entropy and this, in this key, Richard really like gives this invitation to be with the numbness, because he's like, so much of what we're doing in the world, it's like you want to cover that numbness. You want to do something so that you don't have to sit with that numbness. But what if we just allowed that numbness? Because again, part of that numbness is, maybe the voidal space, or maybe that liminal space where there's something that's wanting to unfurl from it. And so I do really feel like with these keys, I feel them a lot again when I travel. And like, again, I think it's probably some of the positioning that where I have them in my chart, but there is this invitation to, with last week and this week, at least that I'm feeling, of like stepping outside of the boxes and the even the stuff that we've done for ourselves. Like, you know, are are we doing that to maybe like avoid some sort of discomfort? And what happens if we miss that one day, or like if something comes up one day and invites us into a whole new adventure? Like, are we willing to say yes and see where it goes? Again, because the mind, if we're in the mind, we might feel dislocated. Like that would throw me off track. That would put me somewhere where I'm not meant to be. But what the wisdom of the two shares with us is that you could literally never be in the wrong place. Like it's not even possible. So I think one of the things that I'm just going to lean into, and so this would be an invitation to anyone that this felt like kind of fun and maybe even like an edge for, is just like, yeah, doing something totally outside of what we would normally do, or like be open to, and just kind of seeing like what does happen. I don't know. That feels like it's coming for me, and inviting me deeper into that.
Mm, I love that. I was also thinking as you were sharing that, because I keep saying somebody needed to hear that, and that somebody maybe is me. So, yeah, it's interesting. Again, when we express and get that energy out, just how that, it initiates a healing process. It initiates a reflection process, a contemplation process, whatever that is. Um, because yeah, it is interesting to contemplate like the spaces that I lean into structure and that are uncomfortable for me to pull away from that structure. And yet the places that I'm like, don't give me structure here. I don't want that restriction. And are there any themes between those? Maybe even related to trust, right? Where don't, like I mentioned it with food, how I just go rogue in the pantry with food, right? And food has been a part of my journey, with emotional eating, you know. So that's interesting. I'm going to sit with that too and see if like my structure preferences are around trust and even protection. Like that goddess state to me is more of a protection, if anything. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna sit with all that. How are you feeling? Anything else you want to share before we wrap up here?
I think I'm feeling good. Yeah. I feel like everything that came through again is what we were meant to express and explore. And hopefully, again, either we needed to hear it or someone else out there did. And we'll continue. I'm excited to continue this contemplation through the week and just kind of play with these a bit and see what's wanting to come through. And so I'm sure we'll have more to share next week as well.
Mhm. Mhm. And continue the contemplation. Here's Cori's structure. For me, I just like kind of throw it into my aura and like show up next week and share how I'm feeling. So, um, you guys listening, there's so many, nothing is wrong about the way that we do any of this. So, whichever way you lean is perfect and a part
Absolutely.
of your journey.
Yeah.
So,
And contemplation too is like you said, it is just like allowing the thing to be in your field and then seeing what emerges. If anything, yeah, it doesn't have to look a certain way at all. It's just really like letting a thing kind of be there and being open to whatever is wanting to be communicated or observed.
yeah, and I wonder if part of that is tied to the throat too, because like when I go on other podcasts and the hosts want to send me a list of questions, I'm like, no, please don't send me the list of questions, right? I'm wondering if that has something to do with it too.
It very well could, because you're, really here to like express yourself in the
Yeah.
moment. But I would feel like I also feel like that, and I have a divine throat. It literally happens every week. I'm like, I just totally contradict everything. But I also, that's part of my journey with all of this is like being able to hold the contradiction. And again,
Yeah,
knowing that
yeah.
like there's there's levels and layers and nuances to all of it.
Mhm.
And so it's like really listening inward and knowing, again, we get to experiment with it. Like it's a playground
Right.
and like we know, but yeah, I would say like, yeah, an open throat just, or an undefined throat is really here to, be very in the moment with what they're saying and sharing because it is just like coming through. You can't really prepare for that sort of thing. But that's also what one of the things that I love about this space is like, yeah, I tune into the keys, but that's part of my practice and just something that I love to do. Again, my structure, my loose containment, as I float through the ethers, it grounds me a bit. Um, but it's like I'm not like sitting around like, oh, what what
Yeah.
does this mean? Like it's more that I'm just going about my daily life and then something will pop up, like I'll see it or I'll just have like it's yeah. And it's cool to come here and just see what comes through. If when I think about it before, I think about all these things I want to talk about. And then we come on here and we talk about something totally different. But that's what I like about it is that it's not like this pre-planned edited thing. And this is very healing to me as someone who yeah, just has had a lot of fear around the voice and sharing the voice in the moment. And so I think yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that, but again,
I love it. It's
just
all
sharing.
perfect. Yeah. All right. Well, we so appreciate you listeners for being here with us, for journeying with us. And as I've mentioned throughout the episode, we love to hear from you and how you're experiencing the energies. And if you love this conversation and feel called to share it with somebody, we would be so grateful for that. All right. We will see you next week.